Hey everybody, this is Andre here covering for Kevin on the Kevin Breeze channel, and in this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE and the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G. These days, you can find both of these phones factory unlocked for all major carriers. To get some more information about pricing and availability, or to learn more about the phones themselves, be sure to check the links in the description. These links will take you directly to the phones on Samsung's website, where you can find some great trade deals that you might not be able to find anywhere else. With that being said, let's get started. Now, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE has a 6.5-inch 120Hz Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 407, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and an 84.8% screen-to-body ratio. The Samsung Galaxy A71 5G has a 6.7-inch Super AMOLED Plus display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 393, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 88.3%. So both of these phones have really great high-quality displays. Obviously, the A71 5G has an ever so slightly bigger screen, and the screen-to-body ratio is higher. It does give off a more modern appearance, although it's really close. Honestly, if you're not looking very closely, it's not too noticeable. And then as far as the resolution and the actual display of the picture itself goes, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE does have a slightly higher PPI, and it's going to be just a little bit better quality as far as the general image goes, but really, these differences are so small that you're not really going to notice a whole lot. The only real noticeable difference between the two is, as you can probably see here, the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G does have a slightly bigger screen. It's just a little bigger in general, and the bezels are just ever so slightly smaller. But really, when it comes down to making a decision between one phone or the other, I really don't think you're going to notice enough of a difference to make a decision based on that. Now, both of these phones have a hole punch for the front-facing camera, and these cameras are both 32 megapixels. Now, these cameras are definitely going to be very similar, but if I had to guess, I would say the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE probably has a slightly better front-facing camera than the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G, just because the S20 FE is a flagship phone, so most likely, even though these are both higher-end devices, I would say that if there is any difference, the flagship phone is going to have the better performing camera. Now, one noticeable difference between these two is that the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE does support 15-watt wireless charging, whereas the A71 5G doesn't have any wireless charging. Now, both of these phones have a fingerprint scanner and face unlock. The fingerprint scanners are located on the display of the phone, which I personally think is really cool. Again, it makes it look a lot more modern, and I really like that. Let's go ahead and give them each a try. Starting with the A71 5G. Having a little trouble here. So as you could see, the fingerprint scanner for this phone really didn't work all that well. Let's try it one more time. So there we go. So as you could see, it did lock me out both times. It didn't even read my fingerprint that I put on there twice just so I could be sure to get it to work, and it still wouldn't work. Let's try the S20 FE and see how it works compared to this. Let's try it one more time. As you can see, it's really not even a contest. The Samsung Galaxy S20 FE definitely has a much better fingerprint scanner than the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G. With the S20 FE, it unlocked with no problem. Even when my finger was positioned slightly off, it still unlocked without any issues. Whereas the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G, no matter how many times I tried, it wouldn't even work. I'm not quite sure what causes this difference. But one thing I would say is that if Samsung's not going to put in the same type of quality and effort into the design of an in-display fingerprint scanner for the Samsung Galaxy A71 as they will with the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE, then it might be better to have a fingerprint scanner that's external or even on the power button. If they put the fingerprint scanner on the power button instead with this phone, then it might even be more convenient and it would most likely read better. But all in all, the fingerprint scanner for the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE is definitely great. It's very fast and responsive, and no matter what, at least both of them do have a fingerprint scanner. I know the iPhones these days don't even have that, so it's nice to see that both of these devices do have a fingerprint scanner. Now, of course, with the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G, it's not a big deal that the fingerprint scanner doesn't work too well, considering that there is Face Unlock. That is also a really great feature that's really convenient to use, so not too big a deal. Taking a look at the camera setups of these phones, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE has a 12 megapixel rear camera, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, and an 8 megapixel telephoto lens with 3x optical zoom. The Samsung Galaxy A71 5G has a 64 megapixel rear camera, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. Now, both devices have really great camera setups that are really powerful. The Samsung Galaxy A71 5G technically has a higher megapixel rear camera than the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE, but at the same time, this metric doesn't exactly determine which camera is better per se, so let's give them a try now. So both of these devices have great cameras with really high quality images. I would personally say that the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE does have a slight edge over the A71 5G. The S20 FE definitely focuses a little bit better and has better control over the exposure. And I would say that the colors are a little bit better as well. That being said, the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G does still have a great camera. One thing I really like about the A71 5G is macro mode. You can get those super detailed close-up pictures. On the other hand, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE does have a telephoto lens, which is really cool as well. In a way, this really does make up for not having a macro camera, because the telephoto lens allows you to zoom in a lot and still get those really detailed close-up pictures without distorting the quality. So even though it doesn't have an actual macro camera like the Samsung Galaxy A71 does, I would still give the edge to the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE in the case of overall camera quality and features, just because even though it doesn't actually have a macro camera, it does have a telephoto lens, which the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G doesn't. And the telephoto lens can pretty much take the place of the macro lens, and it can also do more. Now, taking a look at the front-facing camera, both of these have really great quality front-facing cameras. Like I kind of thought, even though they have the same style and the same megapixel amount and everything, they are definitely different. I would say the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE has slightly duller colors, whereas the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G has slightly more vivid colors. And personally, I do prefer the front-facing camera on the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G. Taking a look at portrait mode, I honestly do like the portrait mode on the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE a little bit better than the A71 5G. I do like the portrait mode on the A71 5G, but compared to the S20 FE, the portrait mode on this does feel a little bit less professional than the one on the S20 FE. Not only that, but you get more features on the S20 FE. You're able to change the mode and the settings a lot more. Whereas on the A71 5G, you can really only control the amount of the blur a little bit. Another thing to note about the A71 5G is, although it still does look really good and the image is great, it almost, compared to the S20 FE, almost has that feeling of just a green screen with a blurred background and the subject is just kind of placed in front of it. Whereas on the S20 FE, even though the colors aren't quite as vivid, it just blends a lot better and gives a more professional look. Overall, I think both of them are great, but if I were to choose between one of them, if I were doing a lot of content creation that required the front-facing camera, I would choose the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE because even though they're really similar, I would say the S20 FE has a slight edge. Now, both of these phones are capable of shooting video in 4K. The main difference is the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE is able to shoot 4K at 60 frames per second, whereas the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G can only shoot 4K at 30 frames per second. Now, to the average viewer, this might not make that much of a difference, and really, unless you're doing some serious videography, I don't really think this matters a whole lot. But again, in terms of overall camera quality in general, I would say the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE does have a distinct edge for many different reasons. And if your main purpose of a device is content creation that involves the camera, then this is definitely something to consider. Now internally, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE is getting 6 GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 processor, and the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G is getting 6 GB of RAM with the Exynos 980 processor. Now, one thing to note about the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G, this is the unlocked version of it. If you get it through a carrier, it's going to have a slightly different processor, which means a slight difference in performance. But for the purpose of this video, this is the unlocked version that does have the Exynos 980 processor and does get 6 GB of RAM. Now, I ran a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on these phones, and as you can see, there is a huge difference here as far as performance goes. Without a doubt, the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE with a multi-core score of 3219 definitely has a much more powerful processor than the Samsung Galaxy A71 5G with a score of 1875. Now again, whether or not this really is going to make a whole lot of a difference to you really depends on what you're using the phone for. If you're doing mid-range activities like photo editing and taking a lot of pictures and that sort of stuff, and even light gaming, if you're doing mid-range activities like basic content consumption, internet browsing, and photo editing, you're not going to really notice the difference between the A71 5G and the S20 FE. But if you're doing high-level activities like video editing and gaming, then you're definitely going to notice a significant difference. Now, both of these phones have 4500 milliamp hour batteries that support 25-watt fast charging. Not only are these big batteries that are going to get a lot of life and power, but the fast charging is an extra benefit that's really nice to have. Now, in conclusion, which one of these phones is better? As far as performance specs and general features go, I definitely think the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE has the edge. This phone not only has a higher quality camera with more features, but it also has a much better fingerprint reader and a lot higher processing power. On the other hand, when it comes down to which one is going to give you more value, it really depends on your needs. If you're just doing a lot of content consumption and otherwise basic activities like photo editing and maybe some light gaming, then the Samsung Galaxy A71 is going to be perfectly fine for you, and you're really not going to benefit from using the S20 FE that much more. But if you're doing high-level activities that require a lot of processing power like heavy gaming and video editing and that sort of thing, and if you're doing something related to content creation that really needs a good camera, I would definitely say the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE is the better option. Overall, despite their differences, these are both very powerful devices that offer great value. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And again, if you want to get some more information on the pricing and availability, or just learn more about the phones in general, be sure to check the links in the description. They will take you right to the phones on Samsung's website, where you'll be able to learn more about the pricing, availability, and even just more information about the phones in general. And a lot of times they do offer some really good trade deals that you might not find anywhere else. That being said, I will see you guys in the next one.